BTL coming at you. Good Thursday, everybody. Welcome to BTL Bass Talk Live, where we're going to talk bass fishing and anything else that we want to talk about. Bradley, big story of the day, the Elite Series not coming to Fort Gibson next week.
Not next week.
September, man. And, I kind of look like an idiot, and that's not the first time, but it's true. When the lake is up 15, 16, 17 feet, you can still fish it. But the issue is when you have a crowd there, when you have a weigh-in stage, when you have all the other stuff that goes with the high water there at Fort Gibson, it's just not feasible. So I think Bass did the right thing. They have postponed it until, September 16th, I believe?
Yeah, September 16th to the 22nd.
All right, which is going to follow the New York swing where they have the two stops north, and they're going to have to come back to Oklahoma for the final regular season event, and then they go to the AOY championship event that they have. So coming back to Oklahoma in September, and let me give you your thoughts. And oh, by the way, folks, yes, we are going to have Dean Rojas on here in about 5-10 minutes. But let me give you your thoughts on September, Fort Gibson, typically a very, very tougher time to catch fish on that body of water.
Yeah, it probably is, but I personally would rather fish it in September. There's been a lot of opens and Costas, regional level events that have been there in the fall, and it is much tougher, no doubt.
Yeah.
It's tougher to get bites, but the quality's still there. It's just a typical September tournament. I mean, anywhere you go in the nation, September is probably the toughest month, just about anywhere.
Except up north.
Except maybe up north. But even up north is not what it is in June, July.
No, you're right. You're right.
But, yeah, it will be a tougher event, but that's about what I thought they would do. We talked about it yesterday, and I looked for them to cancel it and postpone to a later time, and that's what we have, September 16th to the 22nd.
Now, I got to give them a few kudos here because the fact that they had that date and they were able to work out something, even though I get it, it's September, it's after the New York swing, but at least they had a plan rather than just ditching the whole thing and not having it at all. So I think it was a good thing. Now, I'm going to throw something out there, and I want you to think about this. Is it a possibility that this could happen in the future? And I thought about this last night, is when they go toward working on the following year's schedule, what if you had a venue, and I'm just going to throw out Nashville, because Nashville's kind of centralized. You have Old Hickory right there. They did have an Elite Series there years ago that Kevin Worth won. You remember that? You were actually fishing then, weren't you?
Yep.
Nashville's kind of centrally located. What if you went to a venue, a city, and said, look, we want you to be our standby venue for 2019. But if we don't use and nothing happens that we don't have to use that standby venue, we're going to put you on the schedule for 2020.
I like the idea. I don't know if the logistics and the money and everything works.
You're still giving them, right? You're giving them, no matter what, you're giving them the opportunity to host an event. What you're doing, though, is you are protecting yourself. You're making it logistically a little bit better for the anglers. They're still going to get an enormous amount of exposure. And at the same time, if nothing happens, if you don't have the Delaware River flood, if you don't have the Fort Gibson flood, you have a venue and you have a location that is going to be guaranteed a spot during the following season. I don't know. Maybe it's a bad idea. I just think it's going to suck a little bit for those guys to have to go to New York, then have to go all the way back to Oklahoma.
Let me tell you what's really going to suck for them is that a big majority of them drove their rigs to Fort Gibson and left their boats somewhere around Wagner, Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah.
Tommy Biffle's yard is probably stacked full. And these guys flew out.
No, you're right.
Flew back home, and they were planning on flying back to Tulsa or Oklahoma
Brandon
City.
Cobb said that.
Oh, yeah.
You remember?
I know two people that texted me wanting Tommy Biffle's number last week because they were wanting to store their boat at his house. So, that happened with a lot of them. Now they're going to have to come back and get their rigs and drive back home.
Yeah.
And then come back. in September?
I don't know. I am really, really going to be intrigued on what they do in the month of September. I spoke with a couple of people last night, and I know you have a lot of experience on that body of water in September. I really want to see how they're going to attack it, because you and I both know so much of the success during that time of the year has been brush piles.
Top water's going to come back into play.
Hopefully. I can't wait to see what these guys do top water wise. And no worries, folks. Yeah, it's 15, 16, 17 feet high. By the time that September rolls around, things will stabilize. And
it won't usually have not rained here in like 2 months by September.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hot. It's going to be muggy. It's going to be miserable. And they're going to be throwing top waters, doing a lot of deep water stuff, doing structure stuff. If the water's up a little bit, you may see some stuff that happen in some of the rivers and creeks, but I am really, really going to be intrigued to see what these guys can do in the month of September on Fort Gibson.
It'll be a fun place. It's going to fish much smaller in September than it would right now also. That's another big playing field. But, they've got, how big is their field? 80 guys, is that right?
Yeah.
60, 70 guys. That will help tremendously.
75, I think.
That will help tremendously on that place.
Yeah. And I don't know how many people remember, it was 1999 that Darrell Robertson, and I've talked about this on the show.
You're going old school.
Yeah, Darrell Robertson won the FLW Cup on Fort Gibson.
Yep.
Jim Carnell here in Oklahoma actually won, was it called the Invitational back then? I believe that was right after
that sounds right.
the largemouth bass virus that went through Fort Gibson. Yep. I think over 3 days he had 20-something pounds. 20-something or 30-something pounds.
Really bad tournament. Yep.
Yeah. And
then it was followed up by the gentleman down in Louisiana. You remember him? Had the real strange name. He won up there also at the same time, and he had like 18 pounds for 3 days. Something.
So there's a lot of history on this lake. It is rebounded well. A lot of the local tournaments that take place on Fort Gibson, I know they have a jackpot every Thursday night or Wednesday night or whatever it is, has really, really rebounded well. So I am really, really intrigued to see what these guys are going to do in the month of September on Fort Gibson.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
All right, today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk to Dean Rojas, the man that got it done on Smith Lake down in Alabama. And I can't wait for this, because I haven't talked to Dean for a little while. I haven't talked to him since, obviously, his victory. But I have watched so much of the Major League Fishing on their live feed. And I think I mentioned this yesterday. I actually went back and I looked at some footage from previous events that a lot of these guys were involved with. And from a technique standpoint, we're going to get into a lot of technique stuff, Bradley.
I actually read some stuff technique-wise with Dean that I've got a couple questions for. I noticed he's changed some things up if the article is correct. And one of them is line size in particular with a certain bait that he throws.
Okay.
Also, I was not shocked to see Dean's name at the top of this list, and we'll get into that too, with the reason why. He actually ran through my mind as I drove to Chickamauga. The month of May is the month of Dean Rojas, in case no one's noticed.
Yeah.
Historically.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, it's been 2011.
It's something
was
to
his
do.
last victory.
It's right around that time when you're getting in the later part of the bass spawn, the shad spawn starts, and Dean Rojas climbs to the top.
It's been a while since he's had that hardware, though, Bradley. Like I said, 8 years, and he is really. You go back, you look at his stats from this year. He's somewhat struggled with this new format. And folks, I'm telling you right now, we've talked about it a zillion times. This is a different game, Bradley. It's just a different game.
That's why I'm saying, but you still got the same guys coming to the top in the month of May.
But he has struggled, and now I think he figured it out. And that's part of what I want to talk to him about is, okay, what clicked, what happened, why so much success after you kind of struggled there at the beginning for the first 4 or 5 events.
It's taking different guys, different things to figure, like we've talked about. The strategies are totally different. It's a different chess game.
Well, you mentioned that, and I want your opinion on this. Okay, I made the comparison to one of the kids at school who's in the bass club there. I said, look, man, it's like playing checkers and playing chess. Mm-hmm. You can play the same game on the same board, but if you're a checkers guy and you're really, really good at checkers, you don't know a hill of beans about playing chess. Now, you can learn, but you know what? You're still playing the game on the same board. But the maneuvering is different.
Yes.
The value of each piece is different. Mm-hmm. Still on the same board, though. And he's like, Oh, okay, I get it. That's it. And for those checker players that have not adjusted to the way that the game of chess is being played, you're seeing it. A lot of those guys are struggling, and I think obviously Dean finally got it figured out.
Well, this is not going to be a 1 or 2 year adjustment for these guys. This is going to take 5-6 years to evolve.
See, I disagree with that. I really do, man. I think some of the younger guys.
If all these guys had just started fishing that way, I agree with you.
Yeah.
The problem is these guys that are over there have got 25, 30 years of experience of playing a game a certain way. It's hard to adjust after 30 years of going for 5 big ones.
And that's a good point, Bradley. And what I want to talk to Dean about also is the fact, what do you do during the off season? Now, obviously, if you've had success.
Dean's a perfect example. He's not a go catch 25, 30 fish.
He's got the record for crying out loud.
Yeah, he's a big fish guy. He throws
He's
big
got
fish
the record.
baits.
In fact, when we go to him, you're going to see those fish sitting right behind him.
He's a catch 6-7 bites a day kind of guy and lead.
Not anymore. Not anymore. All right, so we're going to get into that. We're going to get into that. The point I was trying to make is during the off season, if you're a BPT guy, what do you do to work on your game? Do you go to bodies of water that are located close to you, or do you make a commitment to going to places where it's all about your electronics? It's all about getting dialed in on locating groups of fish. It's just a totally different game, Brad.
So you've already bypassed the first step. The first step is when you have to sit down in a room by yourself with closed doors in the dark and go, okay, am I really going to start fishing with spinning rods? Really?
Well,
all
we've
the time?
seen that. They got 12 of them on the deck of the boat, dude.
Does Hackney have 12 across his deck?
I think he does.
Does Ish have 12 across his deck?
I don't think he does, and that's part of the reason why he might be struggling.
With sitting in that dark room by yourself and asking these questions.
It's a great point, Bradley. It's a great point. All right, so that's about it on a Thursday. Hey, today's the first day for the Grasshopper. I asked you before the show, what's Matt going to have? What are you going to put the over-under at? And you came out with man, I don't know. I haven't been following it at all. I don't know what he's going to do.
I don't.
Give me a number, man.
I don't know.
Give me that gut feeling on what you think he's going to do.
He's going to drop 24 pounds on Table Rock.
I totally disagree. I'm taking the under on that one. Who knows? All right, a quick story real quick on him. You know, folks, I'm telling you, the dude is the golden child. We have said that for numerous years about how this guy luck just comes his way. Now, I get it. Luck is earned, right? But I guess at the meeting, they had some raffle or something like that where you could buy tickets. He bought 2 tickets. They gave away 5 things, right? Now, there's 150, 200 guys in there, even more than that. He buys 2 tickets. They give away 5 things. How many things do you think he won?
Probably 2.
He won 2, folks.
Okay, so
2. He bought 2 tickets. They gave away 5 things. There's a zillion people in the room, and he gets 2 things.
I'm not too superstitious, but I never buy those raffle tickets because I don't want to use up my luck before the Derby because if something like that happens. So I'm coming off of my 24 pounds because he's used it all up.
I just gave you too much information. Is that what it was?
Yeah, now I'm more involved.
All right, let's do this. I got to get this queued up here, man. Once again, I am not doing a good job producing. Here we go. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with Dean Rojas with a new piece of hardware in his office. Cool looking trophy.
Trophies are always the best.
Yeah, man. Cool looking trophy. All right, we're going to take a break. Come back with Dean Rojas. Everybody stay tuned.
Sleek new design with easy control file. The clearest images underwater with uncompromising range. Live mapping from the touchscreen. View notifications, video, even Google Maps on screen. And for the first time ever, real-time view of fish movements with live sight sonar. HDS Live. New from Lowrance.
I got my power pole down, stuck in the mud in the bottom of the lake, sitting so still in the wind and the waves, could even be a hurricane. I got my power pole down.
AFCO has a new foul weather rain suit called the Hydronaut. A lot of the features that I really like about it first is the speed vent hood. If it's raining out, you know, how a person gets wet is when you run down the lake and the hood comes down. With the speed vent hood, it's going to stay up. It has a camera mount in the pocket on the chest. The Hydronaut has a 2-layer, 100% waterproof nylon shell. If you're interested in a rain suit that has a lot of cool features that's going to keep you dry, you need to check out the Hydronaut from AFCO.
Aaron Martins here. I'm going to be telling you about a new product by Sunline. It's Siglon PE x8. I've been using it almost extensively all year for my frogging, flipping, drop shotting, shaky heading, worming, jerk baiting. It's by far my favorite Sunline braid. I honestly, this is, I don't say this unless I think it's true, but honestly it's the best braid in the market out of any of the braids. Definitely check it out. It's a price point line, $14.95 for 165 yards, and that could last you a whole year, just one spool with using leader material. It's Siglon PE x8. It's my favorite braid, and I think if you use it, it'll be your favorite braid too.
Pros depend on hydraulic jack plates to get the best out of their boats. Do what they do. Demand Atlas performance. Atlas gets you from the bottom to the top in less than 8 seconds, even with the big 4-strokes. And when you gotta turn right around and get that heavy load back up in rough water, Atlas's innovative design and American-made components will get you there with confidence.
I'm at Depot. Just look for yourself. There's an Atlas jack plate on just about every professional's boat.
The Atlas hydraulic jack plate. You can depend on it.
All right, we are back here on a Thursday, closing out the week. And the cancellation kind of put a snag in my schedule for next week, Bradley.
Well, does it free you up or add more to do?
No. I've got to get the shows lined up for next week now because of the change. So we'll be working on that tomorrow and over the weekend. So make sure you check out the website for the listing on Sunday night. I'll have it posted Sunday night on who the guests are going to be. Hopefully we will have a champion sitting right there where you're sitting.
Yeah, that'd be great.
All right, our next guest, looking forward to talking to him. Got it done on Smith Lake down in Alabama. His first victory in 8 years, which I was really shocked by that. I had no idea that it had been that long at Toledo Bend. Real good friend of ours, known Dean for a long time, and really looking forward to talking to him about his victory on Smith Lake. So let's bring him in now. Dean, you there, man?
I'm here, Mark. How are you doing this morning?
Real good. All right, let me get you queued up here so people can see your beautiful mug. If I can.
West Coast.
There we go. Got you queued up now. So, man, good to talk to you. Thanks for coming on. I know it's been a busy week for you after your victory. The first question, Dino, I just want to ask, you're a guy that has experienced victory numerous times. And with it being 8 years since your last victory, how was that? And just was that in your mind saying, hey, I know I'm still good enough to win over that 8 year span? And then obviously it's finally happened. What was it like going through that?
Well, for me, I always knew in my mind that I could do it. It's just a matter of things falling into place and not imploding. It seemed like every time I got in position over the years, Mark, since then I've had, I don't know, probably 20 to 25 top tens, since my last win. And I've always, made charges at the end, and I was always a little short, or I lost a fish, or something happened to where it prevented me from winning. So going, and obviously it started to get wearing on it, and we have a new format now with the Bass Pro Tour on MLF. So all that changing was going on, and I'm trying to figure out how to approach this as opposed to the previous way of catching them. So for me, it was just starting over again in a way. And as the week started, I never really thought about winning the event. It's not like I left here in Havasu and said, hey, I'm going to win this event. I told my wife before I left, I said, things are going to change, because I learned a lot at the last MLF at Chickamauga that kind of set the tone for last week.
All right, and we're going to get into a lot of stuff here, but I want to mention real quick, I see the shirt that you're wearing, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, that this was the first major tour victory for Suzuki. Is that correct?
That is correct, actually, for Suzuki and Blazer.
Okay.
Bradley Dortch won an FLW, I don't know, probably four years ago on that. But, the MLF thing is much a bigger stage for logo signage and for promotional type stuff. So Blazer is ecstatic. Suzuki is they are going nuts right now. They want me to call Dave Smith and order a couple more trophies because they want to send one back to Japan. They want one in the headquarters. I mean, they just, it's the first win that Suzuki has ever had in their outboard division. And Suzuki is, they're big in the motocross. They're big into the Grand Prix bikes. That's their area where they do very well. And it hasn't been until the last 4 or 5 years that they've really tapped into the bass market and tried to build the brand of the outboard division. And and when I made the announcement a year and a half ago with you here on Bass Talk Live of making the move going to Suzuki, they made it very clear to me that they wanted me to win. And so that was part of the package and everything. So I'm just so proud and so excited to be able to give Suzuki their first high-level tour win that they've ever had.
Very cool. All right, Dean, I want you to be honest, man. Let's face it, the early stages of your MLF season on the BPT, you struggled. I mean, there's no doubt about it. You can look at the stats and you can see that you really struggled. Why do you think you struggled, and what really happened to make things happen for you at Smith Lake? Was there a change? Did you finally realize that, hey, this is a different game? Talk a little bit about how you struggled in the beginning, and then obviously you managed to get the hardware.
Well, Mark, that's a very good question. And, this is a brand new format. Going into Florida, and then Conroe after that, having some experience with the Cup events, I kind of knew, how to gauge everything. But, Mark, I'm learning how to play the game. And the very first year that I was on the Bassmaster, it wasn't the Elite Series, it was the Top 150 back then. I remember I had a lot of good sound advice from a lot of people that were in the media that just go out and learn how to play the game. Don't try to set the world on fire, but just understand how the game is played and how to position yourself. The first year is going to kind of be, a learning experience. And it's a big learning experience for all the guys, not only myself, but for me, I was learning how to play the game and and watching guys and how they go in and out. And do I go for big ones here, or do I go for numbers here? And what part of the lake do I gamble on making the big run, or do I do this, or do I do that? Each one of the events, Lake Toho, Conroe, North Carolina, Smith and Chick and Smith, who are all learning experience. So at the Chickamauga event, I learned a very big lesson. And that was the lesson that helped me understand what I was doing and how to approach this. I was in Group A in that particular grouping. So I fished right after our practice period. And so the last practice day that we had, that the whole field had, I had like 60 bites. I mean, just incredible amount of bites. And I knew going into the next day, because it was my competition round, that I was going to catch them. I mean, there was no doubt in my mind. I could see them. They were aggressive. They were biting. Same weather conditions. Nothing's going to change. And went out there that day and led the first period, just plowing right through. And about halfway through it, I backed off. I stopped. And then I went and tried to do other things because I kind of wanted to see what the field was going to do. I'm still learning. Mm-hmm. So I'm trying to figure out how to gauge this. I know it's Chickamauga. You got to catch them there. But I felt like I could go there again and just completely blow it out. Well, I end up going into the second day, and I end up missing the cut, the top 40 cut, or top 20 cut, in the elimination round. So I end up going home, and I was not a happy camper. Okay. After having the start that I had and then giving it up, just backing off. Yeah. I remember coming home and I told my wife, I said, you know what? I learned a valuable lesson today, and I've been doing this a long time, but I'm making mistakes, but I'm learning from it. And then going into Smith Lake, it was the complete opposite. I know what to do now. I know how to handle it. I know what I need to position myself and where I need to position myself to make it to the next round. You don't have to win the round. You just got to get there. Because I wasn't on the fish to win with all week long. I just happened on the last day was able to be around a group of fish that helped me win that day. Mm-hmm. So, and I'm so used to building up to it, practice, managing the fish, managing the area, everything to the final round, and then let everything hang out there. So that's completely thrown out the window now. Completely thrown out the window. Because now it's so different now, but I love it. I love it. And if you ask any of the guys on the tour, they love the format. It has brought life, energy that has been stored away in guys that they never thought it would come to the surface. And so for me personally, it's like reinvigorated. I'm excited to go fishing, and it's nonstop. I mean, you're out there. You cannot stop. You cannot stop catching them. Because they'll catch up to you and pass you, and it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing circuit, and it's just an amazing way of professional bass fishing, Major League Fishing. It's just awesome.
All right, I have a couple of technique questions or procedure questions or whatever you want to call it. What is more important, fish management under this game, fish management or time management?
Time management, I've learned. Time management is the key. You have to be under the 5 or 8 minute rule. If you roll into an area and you're not getting a bite in the first, before it was like 10 minutes or 12 minutes in the old format. I mean, you had time, You don't have time here. I mean, you've got to go right now. You've got to catch them right now. So the 10-minute period now has become the 5-minute. If you don't get bit in the first, 6 or 7 casts, I mean, you need to keep moving because they're not there. And the longer you sit there and wait, the more time you waste. So the between the time and the fish, it's definitely the time.
All right. I'm kind of a nerd sometimes, Dino. I went back and I actually looked at some video of when you were, I call it the 5 tour. All right. When you were on the 5 tour. Okay. I looked at video of you, how you would land fish. And I've been in the boat with you during a tournament and stuff, but I was watching the technique on not going down and lipping them or anything like that, but the method that the vast majority of guys on Major League Fishing use, the swing it in, okay? And I compared how not just you, but some of the other guys were actually swinging in fish. Forget about the carpet thing. I'm not talking about the penalty or anything like that now. Just the whole technique, it was much quicker, or now it is. It's much quicker. It's much more precise. It seems like there is a sense of urgency. And I'm assuming the obvious answer is that it's due to the time factor. But what I'm wanting to know is, subconsciously or consciously, are you aware that when you are landing these fish, that you guys are actually landing these fish totally different than what you did when you were on the 5 tour?
Well, that's a great point, and you're exactly right on that, Mark. It's a whole different way of fishing, and I think that it's just that extra another level higher than what we're used to performing at. I think everything we do on MLF is one step or even two steps notch above what we're used to. And so all this is brand new. I mean, when you brought up a good point about the fish landing deal, I mean, I don't go down to go lip them anymore unless they're 4 or 5 pounder, because and undoubtedly, if you go ahead and try to get him in the boat, he's probably going to hit the carpet or graze the carpet, and we don't want that. So it's better to go ahead and grab them. And the efficiency of landing the fish, unhooking them, clipping them on the scale, and weighing them, and then releasing them is so efficient now, and it's almost become now of that's just what you got to do. And so all the guys, they've been on this format now for 5 events. They're getting the hang of it to where they're getting faster. The game is being faster. Everything that we're doing is faster now than it's ever been, and that's just because the game has been elevated. It's a difference between a college player and an NFL player. They always talk about the speed of the game. And at Major League Fishing, it is at the highest level of professional bass fishing, where you've got the best guys out there that are the most efficient. They're the best at everything and every technique that you can possibly think of. So you have got to rise to that level, otherwise you're just going to get left.
How long do you think this evolution is going to take, Dean? Because I totally agree with you. It's a different game, and Mark and I have talked about this. All you guys have come from a different format and fished a different format for so long in your life that it's a hard adjustment period. It's like everybody's going through a learning curve. And when everyone looks back 5 years from now on the way that they started and the way guys were fishing, there's going to be some very obvious glaring things that are going to stick out to everyone, like, boy, that was really wrong what we were doing then. And how long do you think this evolution takes from an angler standpoint to compete at this level like that?
Bradley, that's a great question. And I think that is entirely up to that angler. There are guys who hit the ground running at the first 2 events. I mean, they knew exactly what they needed to do, and they ran up the leaderboard. Those guys caught on to it really quickly. The younger guys, they're a little more well adapted to that. They don't have the decades that I and the other guys have done over the years. So, maybe they're a little bit quicker on that, but what comes with us and that is the experience that comes with that, and knowing how to manage certain things like that. But that particular angler has to want to be better and has to rise to that level, because regardless of if they choose to do it or not, you have to do it to be able to compete at this level. When I got on that bite at Smith Lake, I mean, it was just the whole process of them up there, chasing bait and schooling and all that stuff. I threw a swim bait in there, a finesse swimmer from Big Bite, and immediately, I caught one and I hooked one. And as I'm coming back to the boat, the first thing he does, he throws the bait off of the hook. So now I'm like, man, I know I got to stop, re-rig, and I'm thinking, how can I catch these fish faster? This is going to take too long. And I know that I have got to catch as many as I possibly can. So I start thinking about what baits can I throw that's going to be the most efficient fish catching, to where I can get them in the boat and not lose them. That's the key, is not lose them, but to get the bites. And that's where I changed. And I ended up throwing about 5 different baits because I was trying to give them something different to look at. But it forced me to be efficient in the aspect of how to catch them faster than anybody else when they're in that mood.
I get it.
And it's all up to the angler whether, you're willing to say, well, I just want to catch them on the swim bait, because, well, that's fine. But there are better ways and faster ways of doing it. And if you close your mind to it, you've lost the opportunity to raise your game.
Well, something that I had noticed that we talked to Mark about too before we started this interview is even with all the changes in the different formats, you have always been perennially, a top of the AOY list kind of guy. You're always in that top 10 no matter what circuit you're on throughout the year. But there is a time period that I have noticed that is really your wheelhouse. And a lot of guys probably think that it's just dead on spawn when they start spawning. But to me, it truly seems where it's at the end of that spawn, where it's the tail end of the spawn. There's a few left on the beds. The shad spawn has started. The topwater bite started rolling. And that really allows you to do 3 or 4 things. Can you kind of expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, I'd like to think all the months are great for me, but you pointed out May and June are always good. I remember when we used to have the Bassmaster E50s and stuff, and they were always in that May to June, sometimes in July type of realm, and I did very well in that format. And so I'd like to think I'm a well-rounded angler. I know everybody perceives me as being the frog guy, and I do throw a lot of it. But there are a lot of things that I can do as well. And so, heck, if they're biting, I just want to catch them. If May is a strong month for me, then that's great too. I feel like I can catch them just about anywhere. Maybe not so much the winning fish, but just be able to catch numbers and so forth.
All right, I want to go back to Smith Lake and that final day, Dino. What was so special about that area that you found?
Well, it's an area that in practice I went into, and they were in there feeding, pretty heavily. But I ended up not going there. I went there every single morning of competition: the shotgun round, the elimination round, the sudden death round, and obviously in the final round. I'd roll in there and then just kind of look and see what was going on. And it was always quiet. It wasn't like it was in practice where they were just, busting on them. So I ended up going back to a different area in a bunch of willows where there was another shad spawn going on. And that's where I did really well in the shotgun round, where I stayed in the top five pretty much all day long. Catching those fish. I caught a couple of my frog, flipping, and on a swim jig in that area. But going into the sudden death round, you really don't know because of the pairings of the groups, or the two groups of 40. You're watching those guys, the leaders, and you're wondering where they're fishing at. You don't find that out until sudden death. So when because I qualified, I don't know, it was like 14th or 15th. There was guys that qualified, in the top 10, who got to go out before me. So as I left the dock, and a lot of boats had already gone. I went by the area, and there was an angler fishing that particular spot who was in the top 10 in his grouping. And so I just said, well, that's okay. I've got plenty of other fish. I'm not worried about that. So I never went in there. Well, come to find out, it was Boyd Duckett, and so he had struggled that day, that afternoon, and he was in the cup for the first two periods, and then just ended up not making it, unfortunately for him. And it's just one of those things. And so going into the final round, I went to the area where I caught him the first day, and it was completely dead. There was nothing going on, and so I just kind of wandered out. But we had different conditions. We had overcast, dreary, kind of balmy. A light breeze, something that, where you just like, man, they're going to fight today. It's one of those, you can feel the humidity in the air. It was just a lot of just good stuff. So I go, idling in there, and I just sat there, and, this is like 10 minutes into the ride around period, 15 minutes in the ride around period. And so I'm just kind of sitting there, and all of a sudden it goes, skoosh, skoosh, and the fish are just plowing the bait. And so I thought, well, I know where I'm going to start. So I just stopped the boat right there and waited for my time for the gun to go off. And then it was just a matter of just trying to catch them as fast as I could.
Wow. All right, man. Well, that you did. And $100,000 later and a fabulous trophy, and things are good now. All right. A really good question on the instant feedback from Clay in Arkansas. He wants to know, is mental toughness and self-discipline more valuable than skill?
Absolutely. Because without the mental side of it, of you believing in yourself, doing it, all of your experience is for null. I mean, you have to have it here. You have to be mentally strong. And this game, this MLF game is so demanding in the aspect of you feel like you're always on the, under the gun, and you have to perform and you have to catch them. What makes it even more stressful is the score tracker. You may think that, you're doing good, you're catching them, and you're catching them, but they're catching them better. You're actually falling behind. And so it is very, very demanding mentally. And I think, again, it's another level of for the anglers to rise to that level, because it's one more thing that we have to worry about. In the old format, you just caught your 5 and you always wondered all day long, whether this is enough, or do I run 20 minutes to go try and catch a 5-pounder, this and that. All that really doesn't matter anymore. I mean, it's all about trying to stay in the cut, in that realm to qualify for the next round. So it's totally different from what we're used to. But I think that's what is so exciting, what people love about it. And then the mental side, I think, is the most important thing in the Major League Fishing format.
All right, man. Several questions on the instant feedback about this subject, and I wanted to ask it too. I have it on my list. Is this thing about quantity rather than quality when it comes to the fish?
I think it has to do with the actual fishery that we're at. I think has a lot to do with for so long, a lot of the cup events that we've gone to have always been up north, where you just catch a lot of 1-pounders and 1.5-pounders, and that was always like, when people think about MLF, they think about that. Well, when you go to Chickamauga and you go to some of these lakes there in North Carolina, Jordan, where they're catching 4 and 5 and 6-pounders, obviously it's gonna do real well, But I think you have to fish for what the lake's gonna give you, and understand kind of where you need to be at time of year, water temperature, the phase that the fish are in at that particular time is going to dictate how much weight you're going to catch. Obviously, if it's a pre-spawn, you're going to have a lot of fat females. You're going to have a lot of healthy fish. Going to Smith Lake last week, we dealt with all post-spawn. So they were all skinny, they were feeding. So you're fishing for 2 different kinds of fish because of the season. So again, just trying to take what the lake has to offer. And at that aspect, the lake had to offer a lot of numbers, a lot of 1.5-pounders, 1.10s, 1.12s, 1.14s, 2.5, 3-pounders. My big one of the week, I had a 4.6, which was the biggest bass of the day on the first day. So, you can still catch quality if they come. You know what I mean? It's if you're fishing an area and you get the big bite, that's going to be great.
Right.
But I think more or less it's just a matter of just trying to be around a group of them.
All right. Back to the instant feedback here. TJ in North Carolina wants to know, does the MLF style take away from your affection for frog fishing?
I don't know if it's taken away the affection of it. I think it's categorized it now more so. And I've thrown the frog in all the events that we've had, and I've gotten bit in every single one of them. But I'm learning that it's not something, unless the conditions are ideal, that it's something that you could throw all day long. Now I'm using it sparingly, and it's more or less like in Smith Lake. I'll use that as an example. Is I was already catching them on so many different baits, but the area I was in was real conducive for frog fishing as well. So, and in practice, I had a lot of bites on the frog and so forth. So for me, it was something that I did after I caught them, catching them quicker on a different bait that was more efficient, then going to the frog and then, catching them, every 15 minutes or 20 minutes or however it is, and then, racking up the leaderboard with that. So I'm using it more in my arsenal, not so much as a, go-to hammer, catch them all the time. Now it's like, okay, I've got 15 minutes, I've got 20 minutes. Let me try this and that. And if it provides, the quality of the fish, then we're going to run with it.
All right. Do you think we're going to see a 100-pound round at Table Rock?
I think the guys are getting better at the format. I think you're going to see that. I think you're going to see that in one of the rounds. They've come close. Jesse Wiggins came really close. I really felt that he was going to do that with 94 pounds.
Yeah.
With total. But still, you're going to have to get into an area where there was just a lot of fish. And so obviously Table Rock's got it, Bull Shoals. I mean, you're able to catch the great numbers like that. And you probably will see a 100-pound day, on that. And that's a lot of fish, Mark.
Yeah.
I mean, that's like a fish every 2 minutes. I mean, really, 3 minutes. I mean, when you actually make a cast, let it sink to the bottom, and you get big, you fight them all the way back to the boat and do everything else, and then you go weigh them, and then you got to re-rig your stuff, and then throw another out there. I mean, it's a process. I mean, it takes a long time to catch 100 bass, and if you break it down, it's like every 3 minutes.
That's a great point, Dino. All right, man, we are going to go in the locker room. Now, we had John Cox on yesterday, and he won on Chickamauga, and he answered these questions. These are questions that I ask my team, not every game, but after a victory, after a loss, it doesn't matter. Sometimes I will ask these 3 questions. I'm going to ask you these 3 questions, all right, based upon your victory at Smith Lake. First one is, what did you do right?
I made it to each round. I qualified for each round. I gave myself a chance to win. And I didn't have to win the round. I didn't have to win the shotgun round or elimination round or the sudden death round. I just needed to get to the next round. And so it just happened to be where I made the final round and I won.
All right. Even though you won, what did you do wrong?
What did I do wrong? Well, being wrong, I think that that's a tough question because I made a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes, but I learned from them. So is it wrong to be wrong but not capitalize on it? I mean, I take the wrong being it right.
Right.
Knowing what not to do. So I made some bad choices, in practice and kind of wasted a lot of time. But, it's just, nothing's perfect, Mark. You just try to do the best you can.
I know. And then third, probably the most important question, you kind of dove into it a little bit, is what did you learn from your victory?
I learned a lot. The biggest thing was I could win at this format is a big thing. I've won on the previous format, and now I've won at Major League Fishing's format. Now I know that I can compete in either side. It's just a matter of adapting to the conditions and to the game and play. And so the lake itself, provided all the lakes. I've learned how to break them down a lot differently than I normally would. And you're seeing that with a lot of the other guys. And they're all great anglers. Every single one of those MLF guys. I mean, there is no easy grouping. I mean, you have got to catch them. Mm-hmm. And because those guys they're fanatical, they're excited. I mean, they want to win just as bad as I do. And so, I know that you just got to be the best you can and just win. Just win. That's all you can do. It's just you got to throw your best shot out there every single minute, every day. I mean, you pour your heart and soul into everything.
All right, several people on the instant feedback. It's weird that they have asked this question, not necessarily in the same words, but I'm going to kind of change it up a little bit with you having been in this game for so long, and now with your new adventure. I'm sure you guys get in what I call pods and groups and talk about how things are going, talk about what's good, talk about what's bad. Is there something that you could talk about now that you feel would make Major League Fishing better that you guys are actually working on to make this thing better?
Yeah, there's, with my involvement with Major Fishing since the very beginning, I'm one of the original guys. We talk about that a lot. So we talk about the direction, we talk about the positive stuff and the growth of the Major League Fishing brand. And I wish I could share some things with you guys and the audience about what's coming, because there's a lot of great things that are on the horizon and the future for Major League Fishing. There are a lot of great, smart people that are spearheading this whole movement. And for us, it's mostly about the future of professional bass fishing and allowing a platform to where the guys can qualify into the highest level of professional bass fishing and not have to pay an entry fee You can vote on things that if something's not right, you can have an angler vote. I've never seen such unity in all of my career of anglers in this MLF format. The guys are just excited to be there. They're excited for great things to happen. Major League Fishing does a great job in really caring about the anglers. And that's something that I think a lot of them have been deprived of for a very long time. And so it's welcoming for them. It's comforting for them. And the people that are spearheading the direction of Major League Fishing is something I've never seen before in my lifetime, in a sport that I love and I care about, and I want to see young kids have a path to get to the highest level of competitive bass fishing, and we are going to provide that. That is our goal. That is our mission, and that is what we're going to do, is to make what we do better for the people that are coming behind us.
All right, very cool. Now, I want to know how much money you had to throw out at whoever to have the trophy have the color red on it, because I know how fanatical you are about the color red. How much did you have to throw down for that, Dino?
Well, I was a bit surprised to see that it was red at our first event down there at Toho when we launched the Bass Pro Tour. Beautiful trophy. It's absolutely gorgeous. Rojas means red in Spanish. It's rojo. It's just part of me. I've always loved red. Previously with my boat company, I loved the red. I liked it, but for so many years I had to wear something else. So when all the change came, and being with Suzuki and Blazer, I knew right away I'm going to red. And so I don't know. It just happened to be like the trophy's red and gray and silver, and my shirt just happened to be red.
And you got the red crest.
Gray,
the red
white.
crest. The red crest. I had to crack up when I heard that. Hey, by the way, do you get an automatic bid into the red crest for a win?
No, I do not.
Okay,
No,
so what is it? The third set, 5 and 6. If you do well at Table Rock, you're in there. Is that how that works?
No, I'm in the cup event.
Okay.
So they take the top 30, okay, out of the groups of 2. So we just finished up with the stage number 5. So 2 cup events have already been established. Those guys who are in the top 30 qualified for those events.
Okay.
And then it starts over again. So stage 5, 5 and 6.
Okay.
The top 30 in the AOY, in those 2 events, which are combined points. Okay, has nothing to do with AOY. You could be in 70th place, in the AOY, but if you have 2 good events in 5 and 6, you qualify for a cup event. So it has nothing to do with AOY. It just happens to do with how you did in those 2 events.
I got you. I got confused. I knew that. I just got a little confused. That's me. I'm old, and that's what happens. All right. Another question from the instant feedback real quick, and this is cool. The guy didn't put his name, guy or girl. Not sure. It just says guest. Says, who on tour would be the most difficult to sell a lure to?
Aaron Martins.
Really? Why?
Yes. Because he is so anal about everything. And he would find, he'd look at the bait and go, oh, there's a little scratch right there. Or see a little speck right there, it wasn't painted right. Oh, and there's only 16 sparkles. It needs to have 17 flakes of glitter. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
All right.
Because that's just the way, we're sponsored by Gamakatsu. Gamakatsu makes the best hooks in the world, okay? And when we get our, packs of 25 or 50, whatever it is, he goes through the packs, okay? And picks out the ones that are the most sharpest, okay? I don't have the time that he does, but I figured, man, they're in a pack of 25, they're brand new, they got to be good.
Yeah.
And they are good. They are. I don't have a problem, but that's the one level, of weirdness. And I can say that because I fished against the man since I was 17 years old. He only, he grew up 90 miles from me. So we when we were kids, we slugged it out in team tournaments, So, and the progression of just, fishing the tour with him for so many years, phenomenal angler, one of the best. He's just incredible. And the way he's able to break things down, but I've learned a lot from him, in tackle storage, tackle management, and going through my stack of 25 Gamakatsu hooks and trying to find the 5 best in there.
Wow. All right. A couple more. Are you going to be able, schedule-wise, to be able to fish the U.S. Open this year?
Yes, I will. Unless I think we have one more cup event in October, but I am going to be doing. I want to. I want to fish that event. I haven't fished it in a long time, and I really want to get back to Lake Mead. You know, flying into Las Vegas 3 nights ago, flying over Lake Mead. I do it every time I come home, and I'm just like, man, I want to get back on that body of water. You know, it's just so big and massive, and it's just. Well, Bradley, you saw it. It was an awesome lake.
It was probably the most fun event that I think I've ever fished in my life, too. Honestly, just to get away, it was just different, you know, and definitely power fishing is a big player there. I like it a lot.
Well, that's how I learned how to, to fish fast, because there, I mean, we put the trolling motor high, and you're just covering water, and it's just been, and you look back and you the cover in the water that you cover, you're like, man, I mean, we're on a trolling motor for a while, and you look back and go, it wasn't nothing. It was a couple of coves, It's so big. And you look across the whole side of the lake, and you're like, man, I ain't even gone over there yet, and I already burned up an hour and a half, so but it teaches you to keep moving and staying ahead of them, and it really helped me out, on tour and stuff over the years.
All right, Dino, how do you feel about the remainder of the season? Do things set up well for you? And obviously, your confidence now flying high. Yeah,
Mark, I'm just going to take one event at a time and evaluate it at that particular time and so forth. I'm not going to, we can't talk anymore, the guys, around the groups and stuff. So we can't talk about fishing. And so, all the research and stuff that you do, you're on your own with that. So it's not like you can come back and say, hey, I had 10 bites on this or da-da-da. I mean, you can't do that anymore. Yeah. So now it's all on you. I mean, you have got, and that's why I'm saying everything that we're doing, the game is being risen, that the guys have to get to that level, because it's harder now than it ever has in every aspect, the mental side, the physical side, everything that we do, it's more and more difficult. So, but I think the guys like that. And so going into every event, it's just going to be a matter of breaking the lake down where I feel like I can be at my best for the time frame that I need to compete at.
All right, very cool. Dino, it's great to talk to you again. Thank you so much for taking time out. And hopefully, folks, we're working on some stuff that maybe this fall or toward the early fall. Oh, look at that right there. He's showing us something. What is that?
This is the thing that I brought back home. This is the spit shad that I used on the final day there at Smith Lake. And that's the one that I used, that caught the fish on.
Very nice.
That helped me win.
I can't believe Mark hasn't talked you out of that yet. He has all of your lures hanging around my head right now for past wins.
Just a few, man. Not that many. I'm
I do
okay
want to share something that we're working on right now that's going to be coming very soon to the marketplace. Spro, we have a new frog coming out, and we're excited about it. This is the new big poppin' frog. Okay.
Wow.
I know it looks the same, but I'm gonna put the spit shad up next to it. That way you can see the difference of the size of the bait.
Yeah.
See that right there?
Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
It's big, and our poppin' frog is our best, one of our best sellers, and we've gotten so many requests for building a bigger one. This will carry a 5/0 hook in it. A big hook. It's not as big as the King Daddy, which carries a 6/0, but it's a 5/0, and this is one of the early prototypes of it. And we'll be launching this at ICAST coming up here in July. So a lot of great things with that. But the spit shad was the deal, man. I mean, for when I was frogging them, and then when I was catching the numbers was more or less on a swim jig and a swim bait and a small little crankbait was the key to catch as many as I could. So it was awesome.
I'm curious, and we're good on time here. I'm curious, were you still using braid on that?
On the frog?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I don't throw anything but braid on that.
Okay.
That was actually one of my questions. You've always been a 50-pound guy, and I've read 2 different articles, and they could be wrong, or you may have changed. Obviously, I see the difference with Sunline here, so maybe that is the reason you've gone to 80.
Well, yeah, I've gone to 80 ever since I started with Sunline about 7 years ago. We created a line called FX2, which is flipping and frogging, which is a punching braid and a frogging braid. And, you know, it's 80-pound test line. And so people think, well, it's 80 pound, man. Well, no, it's the same diameter of 65 that I've thrown for years and years and years. It just has a higher breakage strength. Okay, so it breaks at 80, which I don't break off. And so, you know, and that's one of the things big questions I get with frogging is, you know, well, I use 40 and I use 50 and this and that. I go, yeah, I get that. That will work. You can catch fish on that. But at our level, we cannot have failure. I mean, it is catastrophic if you lose something by breakage. And so I want to make sure that if I get the bite and I set the hook, that, you know, I got him in the boat, you know, and that 80-pound braid, nothing's going to break it. And the fish bites it, set the hook, bam, bring him into the boat. It's done. It's over with. So getting control of the fish, not having to worry about it. Yes, 40, 50, 60-pound casts a lot further. You know, you're able to do that, but there's always some kind of sacrifice that you have to deal with when you're doing that. And I don't want that. I want 100% in my favor every time that I go out there. So it sounds like 80 is a lot, but it's not. It's only 65, and it's something that, you know, it's like peanut butter and jelly, man. It's good stuff.
Hey, put that other one up there real quick. The other one. Okay, that's the prototype?
Yes. They don't even have a hook in it or nothing, but this is our natural green color. And, again, it'll have the 5/0 hook in it.
Is this the first look at this? Are there pictures of that out there anywhere?
Nope. This is the first one.
Oh, that's cool.
First time. But just want to let you know what we're doing. We've got other things that are in the hopper and we're working on as well. We started this project a little over a year ago, Mark. So we had to completely redesign this one because of the bigger hook. The original popper that we have only carries a 3/0 in it, which is very popular for pond fishing and so forth. But everybody wanted something bigger. And that was the number one thing that we got was we need to have a bigger bait on the market that you know, with the pop and frog, and you can kind of see the difference there in the sizes. I mean, it's incredibly bigger. It's going to move a lot more water and get the big bite. So
right, cool.
I'm excited. I love throwing the King Daddy, and this will be a nice 1-2 punch.
All right, very cool. For those people that are listening to this replay on iTunes, you need to check that out. All right, if you don't go in and look at the video replay, this is one that you definitely need to go check out. First look at what Dean has coming down with his new frog. Dean, man, thank you so much. Congrats, great job, and I'm going to do everything I can. I am committing to try and be at the Table Rock event, so I will look forward to seeing you there, man.
Well, thanks, Mark. Bradley's always good seeing you again. Hope things are going well. And, man, it's always a pleasure being on your show, Mark. It's always a lot of fun. We're usually cutting up and having a good time, so it's always fun. Thank you.
All right, good stuff, man. Be careful. I will see you hopefully next week, man.
All right.
There you have it, the 5 behind him. Do you see those, Bradley?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Buzz back there. See him back there? That's it.
There it is. Oh, he's got more to say about it.
That's the 10-12 right there. That's the 10, the 9-8, the 8-9, and the 7-10. So
wow,
those are my babies.
That's pretty cool, man. It's
that's awesome.
It's like a mounted. Well, I'm not gonna say that.
It's
like his pet, man. It's like his pet. No, that's good stuff, Dino. All right, man. Take care. I'll see you next week, man.
Cool, man. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
See you. All right, there you have it, Dean Rojas, and good stuff, man. And I think he is obviously confirmed that. I mean, it's obvious. It's a different game, Bradley. We've talked about it, and I think one of the biggest tasks that Major League Fishing has right now is to get the fans, and specifically the fans that are in the industry, that are familiar, that are so used to the 5, is what I call it, the 5, that they're going to have to understand what this change is all about, and that it's a totally, totally different game.
It is a totally different game. And I know we all want change to happen like right now, or, you know, everything to line up and make sense right off the bat. But a lot like what he's talking about. They are in their, as far as business-wise, MLF is in its infancy. I mean, it's a baby. It just started. So there's some things that are going to take some time to build and for them to unfold, just like, they're talking about next year, things being a lot clearer cut with not having the aired television shows and things that are going on right now. It's just change.
Yeah.
And it's going to take some time to get it set up and rolling.
Yeah. If you play checkers, you're going to have to figure out the game of chess.
Better figure out the game of chess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right. That's going to wrap things up this week. Once again, our second week of Champions Week. And I want to thank John Cox. I want to thank Brandon Cobb, and obviously Dean Rojas, and everybody that brought home the hardware this past week to coming on the show. And great stuff. Hopefully everybody out there is getting a little bit of insight that is a little bit different. We try to point out things that we're interested in, that hopefully the fans are interested in. All right, the last thing I want to mention, Bradley, I have been challenged on the instant feedback. And I have been very, very quiet this week about the situation that occurred in the double overtime win by my St. Louis Blues. There's a gentleman out on the West Coast, Brian in California, longtime listener, wants to do a gentleman's bet on the next round, the semifinals. The Blues haven't been to the Stanley Cup Finals in 49 years. 49 years. That is a long, long time. And he wants to do a gentleman's bet between the St. Louis Blues and the San Jose Sharks. I'm going to take that, but it ain't going to be no gentleman's bet. All right, we're going to have to put something on the line. So here's what I want you to do. And I'm not talking money. All right, we're not going to do a money wager. There was a situation when we did Alabama versus Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. There was a gentleman in Alabama wagered a Vixen versus a Wiggle.
Original Vixen.
Original Vixen versus a Wigglewort. So send me an email, mark@bassone.com, Brian. Throw something out there from a lure perspective on what you would like to wager, and we'll do that, and we'll keep track on that. Can't wait for it. It's going to be a great series. And I know a lot of people out there may not be hockey fans, but folks, I'm telling you, there are very, very few things in this world that can compare to the Stanley Cup playoffs. I've been a hockey fan ever since I was 5 years old. You know how I got into hockey, Bradley, when I was in California?
I have no
My
idea.
best friend in elementary school, his dad, Don Kozak, played for the LA Kings.
Oh, my gosh.
And that's how I got into it. All right. And he played, and I learned how to skate, and we used to do really cool things at the rink that they would practice at. I mean, they weren't at the forefront. The Kings back in the 70s, the early 70s, it wasn't like it is today, and it wasn't like when Gretzky was there and all that and everything. People didn't even know who these guys were. I mean, it was just an anomaly that was taking place out in L.A. And then they started to have success, and they got some players. Well, anyway, he gets traded to Detroit. Or not Detroit, to St. Louis. So the wife happens to be from St. Louis, and that's kind of how I became a Blues fan. So very, very excited about the series with San Jose, and we will see what happens. All right, folks, that's going to wrap things up. Any final thoughts, Bradley?
It's just been a great week. Congratulations to Bass Talk Live. 3 champions again in 1 week. It's pretty fun. It's a lot to cover and a lot to go over, and it's good.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Don't forget, last time I'm going to say it this week because it's the last show. If you're listening on iTunes, please rate us. Give us a rating. Do a review. It helps us out immensely. It really does. All right. I know it takes like 2 seconds to do, so I would greatly, Matt and I both would greatly appreciate if you would do that for us. All right, next week's schedule will be posted Sunday night. 3 shows again next week, and we will roll on down the road. Hopefully soon, man. I'm out of school. Hopefully I'm going to be able to go fishing here. I don't know where.
Somewhere flooded.
All right, remember, Tuesday next week, Mr. Hallman versus Andrew Upshaw on Grand Lake. One-on-one live. We will have more on that on BassHone.com. Everybody have a very safe weekend. We will talk to you on Monday. We're out of here.